Let me paint you a picture of the most ridiculous thing in the known galaxy, and trust me, that's saying something when you've got species that literally eat their own emotions for breakfast. The galactic combat arena on Nexus Prime is basically what happens when you give a bunch of bloodthirsty aliens too much money and not enough common sense. Picture a stadium that makes the Roman Colosseum look like a sandbox. We're talking about a structure so massive it has its own weather patterns, complete with floating VIP boxes that cost more than most planets' annual GDP. The audience? Oh, that's the best part. You've got everything from tentacled blob creatures betting their life savings to crystalline beings who literally vibrate with excitement when someone gets their face punched in. And right in the middle of this cosmic circus stands Zara Rodriguez, though everyone here calls her Tank, and not because she drives armored vehicles. No, she earned that nickname the old-fashioned way by hitting things until they stop moving. For 6 months, this 5'0" human has been turning alien champions into very expensive floor decorations, and the crowd absolutely loves her for it. Now, Zara doesn't look like your typical galactic champion. She's got the build of someone who grew up fixing motorcycles and starting bar fights, with arms that could probably bench press a small spacecraft, and a smile that says she knows exactly how many ways she can hurt you. Her dark hair's always pulled back in a ponytail that's seen better days, and she's got this habit of cracking her knuckles that makes even the biggest aliens nervous. The whole spectacle is orchestrated by Vextar the Magnificent, whose voice booms across the arena like thunder having an argument with a freight train. Vextar is one of those blue-skinned, 8-armed showmen who treats every fight announcement like he's narrating the birth of a new star. He's got more jewelry than a pirate ship and an ego bigger than most solar systems. But the real puppet master here is Lord Blunderbuss, the arena owner whose species apparently evolved from money-obsessed slugs. Picture a giant snail wearing a tuxedo that costs more than your house, complete with diamond-encrusted shell and a monocle that probably has its own insurance policy. He sits in his floating platinum box, counting profits and occasionally pausing to order someone's execution when the entertainment gets boring. Today's different, though. Today's what they're calling a special exhibition match, which in arena speak means someone's about to get very dead very publicly for the amusement of beings who consider violence a form of high art. The anticipation in the air is so thick you could cut it with a plasma sword, and judging by the size of the betting pools, half the galaxy's tuned in to watch what everyone assumes will be humanity's final curtain call. The crowd's buzzing with that particular kind of energy you get when people think they're about to witness history, and not the good kind. Vendors are hawking everything from overpriced snacks to commemorative body bags, because apparently even galactic genocide comes with merchandising opportunities. Enter Krex'moth the Destroyer, and let me tell you, whoever named this guy clearly wasn't fooling around with the whole subtle approach. This walking nightmare stands 12 feet tall on legs that look like they were designed by someone who really hated the concept of mercy. He's got the kind of exoskeleton that makes tank armor look like tissue paper, complete with spikes in places that definitely violate several galactic safety regulations. Krex'moth's from a species that apparently decided evolution was taking too long and just went ahead and added extra arms, claws, and what I can only describe as a really bad attitude. His mandibles click with the rhythm of someone counting down to murder, and his compound eyes track movement like a predator who's never heard the word defeat. The guy's got a trophy collection that includes the skulls of champions from 47 different worlds, which he wears like a really morbid fashion statement. Now, here's where the story gets interesting, and by interesting I mean completely ridiculous. Humans didn't exactly volunteer for this whole gladiatorial entertainment gig. See, there was this tiny bureaucratic mix-up involving a mistranslated form, a hungover customs official, and humanity accidentally being classified as a warrior species instead of the primitive backwater farmers the galaxy thought we were. By the time anyone figured out the paperwork error, humans had already been distributed across various combat arenas as exotic entertainment. Turns out, when your species' idea of conflict resolution involves everything from bar fights to world wars, you're surprisingly good at this whole professional violence thing. Who would have thought? The betting pools are absolutely insane today. We're talking about numbers that would make entire economies weep, and 99% of it's riding on Krex'moth finishing this fight before the arena's cleaning crew has time to set up their equipment. The odds against Zara are so astronomical that some bookmakers are offering insurance policies on the bets themselves. The alien audience is treating this like the ultimate finale to humanity's brief and violent career in galactic entertainment. They've got their snacks, their beverages that would probably dissolve human organs, and their recording devices ready to capture what they're certain will be a 30-second massacre followed by the custodial staff earning their overtime pay. But the real comedy gold comes from Zara's manager, a creature called Pip, who looks like someone crossed a used car salesman with a very worried grandmother. Pip's from a species that makes their living by being professional pessimists, which makes him absolutely perfect for managing human fighters who have a tendency to do things that violate basic physics. Pip's hovering around Zara like a nervous butterfly, wringing his 6 hands and muttering calculations about funeral expenses and how this is definitely going to hurt his commission rates. He keeps offering her protein bars and advice about maybe considering a career change to something safer, like bomb disposal or volcano surfing. The crowd's practically vibrating with anticipation now, and you can hear the collective sharp intake of breath from 100,000 aliens who think they're about to witness the end of the human experiment in galactic combat sports. The arena floor clears, and suddenly it's just Zara and 12 feet of evolutionary nightmare facing off in a space designed for maximum carnage and optimal camera angles. The crowd goes dead silent for exactly 3 seconds, which in arena time feels like about 3 years, and then Vextar's voice booms across the stadium like the universe's most dramatic doorbell. The fight begins, and immediately, spectacularly, everything goes exactly the way everyone expected it would, which is to say Zara gets launched across the arena like she was fired out of a cannon operated by someone with serious anger management issues. Krex'moth doesn't even break stride. One moment Zara's standing there looking ready for business, the next she's airborne, traveling at a speed that would make physics professors weep, before connecting with the arena wall, with a sound like thunder having an argument with a wrecking ball. She hits hard enough to leave a human-shaped crater in metal that's supposed to be reinforced against starship weapons. The crowd absolutely loses its collective mind. We're talking about the kind of cheering that registers on seismic equipment, complete with tentacles waving, crystals chiming, and at least 17 different species doing victory dances that probably violate several laws of biology. The betting computers are already calculating payouts, and I swear you can hear the sound of credits changing hands faster than light speed. Krex'moth starts his victory lap before Zara's even stopped bouncing. This guy's got showmanship down to an art form, flexing muscles that don't technically exist while his mandibles click out what I can only assume is the insectoid equivalent of trash talk. He's playing to the crowd like he's headlining the galaxy's biggest concert, complete with poses that would make a bodybuilder jealous. Meanwhile, Zara's lying in her wall crater, looking like someone just introduced her face to the business end of a meteor. She's not moving, not twitching, not doing any of those reassuring things that indicate the presence of life. Blood's trickling from somewhere that's definitely supposed to keep blood on the inside, and her usually perfect ponytail now looks like it was styled by a tornado with commitment issues. The arena's medical scanners are going crazy, displaying vital signs that spell out bad news in approximately 47 different languages. Pip's in his manager's box having what appears to be a complete nervous breakdown, calculating funeral costs and trying to figure out how to explain to Earth's government that their representative just became wall decoration. Lord Blunderbuss is practically glowing with satisfaction, his snail-like form radiating the kind of contentment that comes from watching your investments pay off in spectacular fashion. He's already making mental notes about which human to feed to the arena next, probably while wondering if he can get a bulk discount on the whole species. The crowd's chanting Krex'moth's name now, a sound like thunder mixed with the universe's most violent graduation ceremony. Betting terminals are printing payout slips, vendors are hawking instant replay footage, and somewhere in the VIP section, someone's already commissioned a statue of this moment. But here's the thing about humans that the galaxy's about to learn the hard way. We're really, really good at looking dead when we're actually just taking a minute to get properly angry. Now, here's where things get interesting, and by interesting I mean the galaxy's about to get a crash course in why you should never, ever assume a human is finished just because they're not moving. See, Zara wasn't unconscious. She wasn't even particularly hurt, which, considering she just played ping pong with a reinforced wall, is pretty impressive even by human standards. No, Zara was doing something that her species has perfected over millennia of being the universe's most stubborn survivors. She was lying there, perfectly still, conducting what military tacticians call a battlefield assessment and what everyone else calls getting really, really pissed off while pretending to be dead. While Krex'moth was busy flexing for the cameras and the crowd was calculating their winnings, Zara was taking inventory. The arena's structural weak points, the positioning of the floating camera drones, the exact trajectory needed to turn her opponent's showboating into a very expensive mistake. And most importantly, how much property damage she could get away with before someone called security. You see, for the past 6 months, Zara had been playing by the rules, fighting clean, keeping the destruction to a minimum, because that's what good sports do. But getting launched across a stadium like a very angry projectile has a way of adjusting your perspective on what constitutes acceptable behavior in a professional setting. The moment of truth comes when Krex'moth decides to add insult to injury by literally kicking dirt at her supposedly unconscious form. That's the moment when Zara stops playing defense and decides to introduce the galaxy to a little concept humans like to call controlled chaos theory. She moves so fast that half the audience doesn't even register it. 1 second she's wall decoration. The next she's somehow behind Krex'moth, having apparently teleported or possibly just violated several laws of physics through sheer irritation. The look on the big bug's face when he realizes his victory lap just became a very short victory sprint is absolutely priceless. Zara's first move is to introduce Krex'moth's exoskeleton to a piece of arena debris that used to be part of the wall she decorated with her face. The sound it makes when 12 feet of evolutionary nightmare meets immovable object operated by unstoppable force is like music, if music was composed entirely of pain and surprise. But she's just getting warmed up. While Krex'moth is trying to figure out how something half his size just treated him like a particularly large pinata, Zara's already moving on to phase 2 of what I can only describe as creative problem-solving with extreme prejudice. The arena's designed to be indestructible, built to withstand weapons that could level cities and fighters who treat mountains as punching bags. What it wasn't designed for was someone who looks at the environment and sees not obstacles, but opportunities for improvised weapon construction. Krex'moth's confusion is growing by the second. His easy win just turned into a nightmare scenario where the prey became the predator, and the predator suddenly realized it might have bitten off significantly more than it could chew. The crowd's cheering is starting to develop some very nervous undertones as they begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, they might have underestimated the small angry human. What happens next can only be described as a masterclass in turning an entertainment venue into a disaster zone while maintaining perfect professional composure. Zara doesn't just fight Krex'moth. She systematically deconstructs both him and everything within a 50-foot radius with the efficiency of someone who treats property damage as a legitimate business expense. The arena's indestructible floor starts developing structural problems the moment Zara decides that gravity is more of a suggestion than a law. She uses Krex'moth's own momentum against him, turning his charging attacks into assisted demolition work that would make professional wrecking crews weep with envy. Every time the big bug tries to land a hit, he somehow ends up contributing to the arena's unscheduled renovation project. The crowd's collective mood shifts from bloodthirsty entertainment to dawning horror as debris starts flying in directions that definitely weren't covered in their insurance policies. What started as cheering becomes concerned murmuring, which rapidly escalates to the kind of panic usually reserved for natural disasters and tax audits. Lord Blunderbuss watches his investment literally crumbling around him as Zara treats the arena's expensive infrastructure like her personal toolkit. That floating platinum box he's so proud of suddenly doesn't look quite as secure when chunks of reinforced metal are whizzing past at velocities that make physicists cry. His monocle actually falls out when a piece of what used to be a support beam embeds itself in his VIP section's supposedly impenetrable barrier. Krex'moth's having the worst day of his very long and previously successful career. Every attack he launches somehow gets redirected into something expensive and structurally important. His claws, designed to cut through starship hulls, keep finding themselves stuck in debris that Zara somehow positioned exactly where his momentum would carry him. The 12-foot killing machine is starting to look like he needs a vacation and possibly therapy, as his supposedly easy victory turns into an exercise in creative physics that would make Einstein reach for the aspirin. His trophy collection of champion skulls is getting lighter by the minute as Zara treats them like particularly morbid ammunition. Vextar's commentary has devolved from dramatic play-by-play to increasingly panicked damage reports. His 8 arms are gesticulating wildly as he tries to describe action that's happening faster than his voice can keep up with, occasionally pausing to duck when the violence gets close enough to threaten his announcer's booth. The betting computers have given up trying to calculate odds and are now running damage assessment protocols instead. Half the stadium's evacuation systems are activating while the other half are trying to figure out how to bill someone for what's rapidly becoming the most expensive 5 minutes in galactic entertainment history. But the real beauty of the situation is that Zara's not just winning. She's rewriting the rules of engagement while simultaneously teaching an entire stadium full of bloodthirsty aliens why humans have survived everything from ice ages to each other. But she's turned what was supposed to be a 30-second execution into a demonstration of why you never, ever underestimate a species that considers spite a renewable energy source. The final showdown happens when Krex'moth, desperate and running out of both options and structural support, makes the mistake of trying to use the arena's own weapon systems against her. The look on his compound eyes when Zara somehow redirects a plasma cannon to redecorate the ceiling with what used to be his confidence is something that will probably haunt his nightmares for centuries. The dust settles, and by dust I mean several tons of what used to be the galaxy's most prestigious combat arena, now redesigned into something that looks like it was decorated by a hurricane with anger management issues. Standing in the middle of this very expensive crater is Zara Rodriguez, somehow looking more annoyed than tired, brushing debris off her shoulders like she just finished a particularly vigorous workout. Krex'moth the Destroyer is no longer destroying anything except possibly his own reputation. He's stuck upside down in what used to be a VIP seating section, his trophy skulls scattered across 3 different levels of the stadium, clicking his mandibles in what I can only assume is the insectoid equivalent of asking for his mummy. The crowd has gone from bloodthirsty entertainment seekers to very quiet, but very worried beings who are suddenly remembering they have important appointments literally anywhere else in the galaxy. The betting terminals have stopped calculating payouts and started running evacuation protocols, which probably tells you everything you need to know about how this whole situation has developed. Lord Blunderbuss emerges from his not quite as secure as advertised platinum box, looking like someone just explained compound interest to him using his personal bank account as an example. His diamond-encrusted shell has several new ventilation holes, and his monocle is now embedded in what used to be the arena's north wall. But here's where the story gets really interesting, because humans don't just win fights, we renegotiate contracts. Zara walks up to the shell-shocked arena owner, still dripping with the remnants of his supposedly indestructible Colosseum, and delivers the line that basically rewrites the entire galactic entertainment industry. She looks Lord Blunderbuss right in his terrified little eyes and says, in the most reasonable tone imaginable, that she thinks there might have been some misunderstandings about the nature of human participation in galactic combat sports, and perhaps they should discuss new terms that better reflect humanity's actual capabilities and preferred working conditions. The contract negotiations that follow are the stuff of business school legend. Within an hour, humans go from exotic entertainment to full partners in arena management, with Zara as the new director of competitive operations and a benefits package that includes hazard pay, comprehensive medical coverage, and unlimited property damage insurance. Yep, her manager, stops having his nervous breakdown long enough to negotiate himself a promotion to senior human relations coordinations with a salary that makes his previous commission structure look like pocket change. He's still worried, because that's what his species does, but now he's worried about much more expensive problems. The galaxy learns a valuable lesson that day about the dangers of underestimating a species whose idea of conflict resolution has historically involved everything from siege to warfare to nuclear deterrence. Turns out, when your backup plan for every situation is organized violence, you get really good at the kind of creative problem-solving that makes arena owners rethink their business models. 6 months later, the newly renovated Galactic Combat Complex is pulling in record profits under human management, but featuring fights that are somehow both more entertaining and significantly less likely to result in total structural collapse. Zara's implemented what she calls common-sense safety protocols, which apparently was a revolutionary concept in galactic sports entertainment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you never bet against a species that considers hold my beer a valid tactical philosophy and has turned stubborn refusal to die into an art form that spans millennia. The galaxy thought they were getting easy entertainment, but what they got instead was a crash course in why humans don't just survive impossible odds. We renegotiate them to our advantage and then charge admission for the privilege of watching us do it.